Okay, y'all. We're gonna have a real talk about this Natalia Grace case. And it's real interesting to me too. I watched part one last night, and I'm gonna watch part two tonight. What I found, or what I guess from my perspective, and I know everybody at the end, they show you everybody's comments and whose side they're on, who's right, who's wrong. What I see in that situation is Kristine, or the wife, is definitely cluster B. I don't just from behavior, and I would say on the spectrum. So if you haven't heard my own perspective and thesis on what the spectrum looks like, most people think of a spectrum as a timeline. So you're either at the, whether it's going horizontal and you're to the left or to the right, or it's going vertical and you're on the top or the bottom. That's how people tend to describe things on a spectrum. However, I think if you've ever been doing anything with a color wheel, or within like a Canva or something like that, and they give you certain colors. So they give you all these primary color squares so you can pick your font colors or whatever. However, if you want a mixture of color, you have to go into the little rainbow measurement tool, and then you get this whole spectrum of colors. So be a spectrum of reds, or a spectrum of blues, or a spectrum of yellows. That is, in my mind, a spectrum. And so everybody's on the spectrum, and somewhere, somehow, this is my theory, doesn't make it the truth. Somewhere, somehow, there was a group of privileged people who got together and decided, either directly or indirectly, that anything within this box, and this box is normal, this box is typical. And I'm going to take that a step further. This box follows directions. This box goes down the American dream exactly as we have written and designed it for them to go down, right? So they're going to go to school. They're going to go to the restroom on the restroom breaks. They'll raise their hand if they need to go outside of the restroom breaks, but they will never go to the restroom just because they have to go to the restroom. They will go to the restroom at the time assigned for their class. Okay, so this is elementary school. And then, as they get older, okay, so now that we've gotten them to where they know what time they need to be in class, what time within the bell ring time that they need to have their butt in the seat, and they can do all of these things. And then they go, we teach them what we need them to know and not anything more. Because we don't want them to challenge our way of being. We want them to follow the American way and the American dream as we have written it. And so once we've gotten them to where the butts are in the seats when they need to be, they stay in the seats as long as they need to. They raise their hand if they need to go to the restroom. But if I say no, they hold it until it's time for the next bell to go to the restroom, and so on and so forth, until 3:30 when the bell rings, at which time it's time to go home. But they can't quite go home yet. They've got to wait until we release them one at a time to go out, or we release them based on bus run to go out. So they still have to follow the instructions so that they stay in alignment with the American way, the way in which we have written and designed for them to behave, that will keep us in the position that we need to always be in, and keep them in the position that they need to always be in. So at this point, we're still in elementary school. Now it's time to go to middle school, and we have these kids who are already perfectly behaved. They're able to get there at a certain time. They're able to sit their butts in their seats when the bell rings. They're able to be quiet through the lessons as they are taught. and they are able to go to the restroom at the same time as everyone else in the class goes to the restroom, or else they'll hold it until the next time in the afternoon that everyone in the class goes to the restroom. They'll eat lunch at the same time that everyone else eats lunch. They will do things in accordance with the way that we've designed it, that is the American way. And as we should say, as we set it forth, okay? So now but now that they've got that all down, we're going to give them a little bit more freedom. So instead of them sitting in the class all day, now that we're in 8th grade or 7th grade, we're going to let them change classes. So not only are they able to come in and get their butts in seats at a certain time based on the bell, they're able to change classes every 50 minutes. And in between that 50 minutes is the time to go to the restroom, which means they automatically, when the bell rings, they need to go to the restroom so they can get that taken care of. And then they can get to the next class and have their butts in seats before the bell rings, because this is the American way. And then let's take them on to high school. And similarly, so now they can actually schedule their own classes, and there may be classes that they are free periods, and they learn how to conduct themselves within those periods. So they can either go outside and off campus, because they can't be on the campus if they're not within the structure that is a course or a classroom or butts and seats. So they get out at 2:00. Now it's time for them to leave. And if they're following the American way, they're finding a little job that they can do part-time so that they can then have their butts in seats when the time comes for being at work. And they get to practice what will be the rest of their life. Okay, so this is how this whole thing is set up. I don't know how I ended up going there. Isn't that something? But this is how it's all set up. And we were coming from Natalia Grace. So we were talking about the spectrum. So this is how people are raised, and they operate this way. But there are people who operate outside of that. And those people who are outside of that little box in the spectrum that's considered normal or typical, those people are considered to be atypical. And that can be atypical just because of behavior. If you're a cluster B personality, like a narcissist or a sociopath or something like that, then you are a Machiavellianist, any of those. And then you might be someone who is on the spectrum considered to be talented and gifted, or you could be someone on the spectrum that's considered to be delayed in some form or some sense. So all of these are on the spectrum, and we don't know what's high, what's low. We didn't create the spectrum, so we don't get to actually define that. But what there is to know is that we're all there somewhere. Well, when I look at Kristine, I see Kristine as atypical, which means she doesn't fit within the square. And that is the American way, the way America was made to be made and whatever. And she is on a level of the spectrum that I would say is either narcissism or even possibly crossing into sociopathy. The reason I would say I would lean more towards narcissism with her is because it is all about her. Now, it is true that all sociopaths are also narcissists. They have no other way to be, because they don't care about anybody but themselves, right? So they would technically qualify. But when I explain to people that I'm coaching or speaking with about narcissism, the key thing that makes, because we all have some degree of that, you should have concern for yourself. You should have positive regard for yourself. Okay, so that's everybody. We should all have that. But what makes it different in the case of the narcissist is their regard for themselves in most, if not all cases, is injurious to other people. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. They exploit other people, and that can show up in different ways. So in the way that I see it with Kristine, she's exploited everybody around her, including her own children by birth. And she's exploited them to get money, to get fame, to get positive regard or a good moral social standing based on her view of what that requires and what that is considered. So I would think that she clearly falls into the narcissist category. Everyone who deals with her ends up being hurt, including her children, including Natalia, including her husband. Okay. And that's my read on Kristine and what's happening there. Everything that most things that are being said, I believe actually did happen. I think that I get confused a little bit between what Kristine's husband says. And the thing, okay, so wait a second. Let's touch on him. The husband or the father of the family allowed his children to be abused by this narcissist. And why is that? Well, it's the same reason why so many, and we've seen this over and over and over again on the news, where a girlfriend is there watching her boyfriend, who's not her child's father, berate or mistreat or abuse her son, even though he's not the biological father. We see it. We see it where kids are unalived as a result. We see it where families are unalived as a result of dangerous, malignant narcissism. Okay. So I think that she is definitely a malignant narcissist, hands down. The reason I don't think she quite goes into sociopathy, and again, this is just from my personal study of human behavior. Here's the thing. Part of me wants to say, but I'm not a psychologist. I took a psychology class, at the end of the day, whether I took the class, got a degree in it, or I just read books, I venture to say that there are people in life for whom my education in psychology exceeds theirs, even though they have a degree in it, just because it is my passion. And I read it for want to learn, not read it for some end goal degree that I need to have, right? So let's talk about that. So definitely let me leave her with sitting with malignant narcissism. Okay. So I've labeled her. Now let's go ahead and see what's going on with dad, with the husband. He is a survivor of narcissistic abuse, but he is not innocent. Okay. And like I said, we see it all the time. If you watch someone being abused and you participate in the abuse, you are too now the abuser. So he is an abuser, and he should deal and suffer the consequences just like Kristine does. However, it is important to understand that his way of being, narcissists are attracted to people who have some kind, in most cases, something that they can give them. And it's usually whatever it is that they need. So in this case, whether it's fame, whether it's positive regard, there was something that he had, which I think if we remember back from the original Natalia Grace series, where it was from their perspective, if you notice at the apartment housing places that Natalia was, and everyone, neighbors, office workers, everyone said the father he's the best. He does everything. He was the one, but her mom was so mean. Remember that? So there is a good heart in there that has now been injured, but everyone was seeing it because that is who at core he is. However, he's extremely dramatic. I do think that there is probably a secret in there, whether it was, a SA type situation of abuse that he experienced in his own home before he ever got to her. Okay, there was something that damaged him, that made him the prey for Kristine. And so he was nothing more than a tool that she used. So she created school, she created this, she traveled, he worked. And he paid the bills, and he made sure that she could sustain the life that she needed. That was her life. In addition to that, he did everything he was told, and he believed everything he was told. And so now when we look at it in retrospect, as they ask him, well, were you there when Natalia threw the children's toy in the street? Did you actually see it? No, I didn't. Kristine told me. Well, were you there when she was standing at the end of the bed? Did you actually? Well, actually, I don't remember it, but Kristine told me, but I remember like whatever. So we're dealing with someone who's extremely abused and suffers from different levels of abuse. And I do think in addition to that, there's probably some secret that he has. And I could probably guess, but I'm not going to, because it might be offensive to whoever might be watching this. But I think that there's a secret that Kristine has over him that she knows that is keeping him believing and trusting and giving everything to her. So that's what I think I see. Now let's fast forward to Natalia. What are we seeing here? Natalia was a child. Now knowing that Natalia really was a child, honestly, I think I want to reserve my commentary until the end of session 2 here and kind of see. I have a little dissonance there in talking about it because she was a child. And so now we are asking a child who is now an adult to interpret and describe what was happening in her childhood at a time when she wouldn't, I don't care how smart she was or was not, she would not have had the words to say the level of abuse or the types of abuse or things that were happening at that time, even though she might have been smart, right? I think she just wouldn't have had that. So with that, I'm going to reserve my comment until I finish watching this to see if there is something I can give for where Natalia as the adult is. I'm still trying to read it because I see her still in a similar position, except, I mean, she's happy. She's with what seems to be a healthier family. However, I was a bit concerned at the end of the set of the episode 1 by the harshness and sternness of the new father. When they were trying to meet with the I don't remember these names, with the father, with Kristine's husband. Something about that didn't feel right. Something about that, don't you use a curse word. We're gonna respect God in this house. This is not your house. This is a set. This is a movie set, a home that has been rented for a recording. This is not your house. That's concerning to me. Jesus didn't even do that. Now he went into his house, which was the church house, and he turned S upside down in there. But he didn't come into your house, in my house, and the average homes, turning it upside down in there, saying, you will serve my father. You will. That's not how Jesus does it. So unless he has a different God than what I serve, that's not what it looks like. So my concern here, that's not what it looks like. So my concern here is she's gone from one level of abuse to another level of abuse. And it is emotional abuse. Religious abuse is emotional abuse. So I want to say that. I do plan on watching episode 2, and I will come back and give you my read on that. But as of right now, we have malignant narcissist, Kristine. We have Kristine's husband, who I believe is an injured empath. So an injured person whose heart is worn all over their body. So the crying and all of that, that's not fake. That is injury from childhood up that is coming out, and it comes out and overflows when he feels unsafe. And that is what we see with him. Nevertheless, he should be held accountable for the abuse that he allowed to happen in his presence, and that he signed on and collaborated with. So I think, yeah, that's my position on that. And then now we get to watch episode 2, see what's going on with this new family, which I think is the same family, just a different color, right? Different color people, different color skin, different color of abuse, right? Just same abuse, different color. That's what I think I'm seeing. I said what I think I'm seeing. I'll let you know when I confirm it. And then once I'm done, if you're watching this with me, let me know. If you like this, hit like. Whether you like what I'm saying or not, if you like what's going on, the conversation, and you have an opinion, please hit like and leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking and how you see it, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Help me see it in the way you see it. It's such an interesting conversation. And then once we're done with NataliaSpeaks, I think I want to go back to the original Natalia Grace story, now with the understanding that this is a child, and then watch it. It's going to be difficult to watch. It's going to be difficult to watch a 7 or 8-year-old child being put in a leased apartment and living on their own, and they're already severely handicapped, severely disabled from that standpoint, but then they are a child. That it's just disturbing on so many levels. But I do want to go back, because when I watched it the first time, I was so flippy floppy on who I believed and who I didn't, that I think I really missed how horrendous this was, because I was at some level thinking, well, maybe she might not be grown, but she's older than what, they're showing. So now knowing that she really wasn't, and that it was just a big lie and horrible child abuse, if I can manage to stomach to watch that original with that in mind, I think there's something to be shared and learned from any human behavior. And if nothing else, how we spot it and recognize it. And then how do we stop it and make sure that either we or our family are not playing any part of any of those 3 roles: Kristine's husband, or Natalia. So with that being said, I'm going to close it off. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk soon.